You're listening to Spreaker Web Radio.
Well, here we are again, guys. It's time for the second episode of Tank's Topical Wrestling Debate Show, and tonight I have with me Scott Adams.
Hey guys, what's up?
We would have had Reese also, but unfortunately he's got some business to take care of, but I'm sure me and Scott can keep you entertained for the night. Anyway, on to our first thing we want to discuss tonight. Obviously this primarily is a Raw 1000th episode preview. So first of all, I want to ask Scott, what would you most like to see on that episode?
What would I most like to see?
Yeah.
I'd like to either see Heath Slater take on one of Austin or even the Ultimate Warrior. One of those two.
I think you'd be very lucky to see that, but I'm with you. I think Heath Slater Stone Cold is a possibility. It's a way of introducing Stone Cold, because obviously The Rock will come back on the mic. And you've got other legends, but can you imagine if Heath Slater comes out running his mouth and you hear that glass shatter?
Yep.
It'll be something else for sure. Anyway, what do you think this is going to be a time for change in the WWE now, or do we think it's just going to be the 1000th episodes and not much going to change?
I believe with an accomplishment like this, we will definitely be seeing changes. I believe now what they're going to do with, especially bringing in the third hour, it's definitely going to be a time to experiment, see what works and see what doesn't work going forward.
Well, we've heard many rumours. Obviously, we'd like to think now the Divas going to get a bit more of a look on the wrestling side again. Because we've touched on this a bit before, the signing of Sarah Del Rey, who is well known from Shimmer, which is a women's wrestling promotion. And she's also going to apparently do a bit of training work with the Divas. So that might toughen them up a bit. I mean, some of them already are, as you mentioned previously, good in the ring, but some of them are just there for looks. So that could improve the Divas division, possibly. Maybe not make it a toilet break.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know Sarah Del Rey went by the nickname the Queen of Wrestling when she was in the Indies, so she's definitely a fantastic worker. And already when you've got Beth, Natalia, AJ's herself a decent wrestler.
Yeah.
And yeah.
There's definitely, well, in the Divas thing, I think there's definitely looks to be some improvement. Obviously it's not the WWE's fault, but the release of Karma seems to have come at a bit of a wrong time for me. But obviously that's not their fault if she's not ready to compete again, and that's understandable after what's happened, but some people do think that's a possible swerve, that she will be at the 1000th or she will be returning soon. And what do you think about that?
I'm not too sure. I do see her returning sometime in the future, definitely. I don't think she'll be back this soon, but I definitely see her return in the near future.
As it's been stated, the door's been left wide open for a return in the future because they've left on good terms. It's just apart from what I've heard, they wanted to give her a bit longer off and she just wasn't ready to come back yet. But it's sad to see, but it's understandable.
It's definitely understandable, and yeah, as you said, the door's wide open for a return when she feels ready to.
But leading on from the Divas then, I've got a question here from Liam. He wants us to discuss, do you think Vicky Guerrero's character has gone stale? I apologise. What do you think about that?
This might be a little biased on mine, behalf, but no, I don't think she's gone stale at all. As a fan of Guerrero, what she does is she brings heat to a character. She gets the character out there, and she builds the character further than I think any other manager could.
I do agree with you though. I think she naturally just brings heat that can sometimes give them that little bit extra. But do you think now that Dolph's missed the Money in the Bank, do you think it's time for her to move on from Dolph?
I definitely think it's time for her to move on from Dolph and go to another talent, but I don't think her character has gone stale.
Yeah, I have to agree with you though. I think she has a place in WWE, she does, because she can, albeit she may annoy a lot of people, but what she does is she brings natural heat to a lot of the people she's worked with, and if you're a heel, then that's naturally going to be good for your character and it's going to build you up. She's always good to see. But, yeah, that was first topic, yeah, I'll agree with you on that. As a question from last week that I asked, last time we did it, I asked Tom, how do you see the AJ Daniel Bryan wedding ending? Do you see, like last week I asked, do you see anyone interrupting? How do you see it ending? What do you see coming of this storyline?
I definitely see an interruption happening, simply because it's a WWE wedding, and there's always shenanigans that are bound to happen with this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I can really only think of one wedding that's gone well, so to speak, and that was the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth wedding all those years ago.
Oh yeah, well, way back in the past with that, but obviously things have changed. You've had such debacles as the Triple H Stephanie McMahon wedding and such forth. But I don't see currently the good thing about it is I don't see anything. Possibly Kane, but other than that I don't see anyone immediately being like you expect it. It's still a little bit unsuspecting what's going to happen in my mind. There's nothing dead certain. But it's good to see. In next question, I've got a tough one for you. I think we should discuss. It's going to be quite a long one. But who do you think will be in the main event scene for the rest of this year?
Me, personally, for Raw, I see it basically being Punk, Cena, Big Show, and then I definitely can see Miz slotting back into the main event.
I can agree with Cena and Punk, but I don't think Show's going to be main eventing. I think he's going to lose steam eventually. He has to be fair. The Miz has that potential to main event, but it's what WWE will do with him. There's plenty of options now. If we're talking Raw, which is generally what the discussion is, there's a couple of options. You've got people coming up and coming now, but are they going to put a bit more spotlight on tag teams, or are we just going to see the same Cena, Super Cena every week, and then Punk slotting in places? Possibly Daniel Bryan, even though I think he's now on SmackDown. Not too sure. They keep doing trades behind everyone's back now with these draft things. So I don't know exactly where everyone is and where they're appearing. Because Del Rio's gone back to SmackDown. I know that much. That was quite a while back now. But I do agree with some of your points, yeah. But it's because with WWE it's tough to pick out. There isn't anyone currently. I could be wrong in this, but I don't see anyone shining immediately. It depends though, because we've got a couple of returns to think about. Ray's just recently come back. They could push him to Raw in a main event slot. Wade Barrett could possibly regain a bit more momentum when he comes back. It just depends which way they want to go with it. Because there's definitely a few options, yeah. But another question here for you: how do you see Raw ending on Monday? What do you think it's going to end?
I actually see Raw ending with the announcement of new GMs for a new permanent GM for Raw.
Can you see that's the ending segment?
Yes.
Could it not possibly be the Well, I would say longer waited, but the Cena Money in the Bank cash in. You don't think they'll push Super Cena?
Yeah, I think that'll be the main event. I just don't think it'll be the ending segment. I think they'll want to end it with a bang, and I think announcing a new GM is the best way to do it.
If they've got something planned like I think they would do, then they could have somebody good and lined up that would really shock the crowd, which would entice them to tune in next week to watch it. So yeah, that's not a bad shout, that. But it'd have to be someone that the crowd would love. It can't be like a John Laurinaitis again, someone they won't know from the background. Speaking
definitely.
Of which,
that's what I'm inclined to believe. The general manager of Raw will be Stephanie McMahon. That's who I'm inclined to believe it will be.
and where have you got? Where's your source on that?
It's just a personal belief, and I've read rumours she's going to be there. She hinted at it on Twitter, so.
Well, as you know, I'm not very active on Twitter, so I couldn't keep you up to date with that. But obviously, no spoilers from me because I don't know anything personal by choice. But from what I've heard, no member of the McMahon family will be GM, which rules out obviously Shane no longer with the company. No, rules out his return, rules out Vince's return to GM, and rules out Steph's return. But with WWE, anything's possible. That could easily, because I think it was Tom that brought it to my attention. That he said that they've told a few of the people they're having return, they've told them to make up, say, fake plans for the night, so people do not expect them at all to go to the show. So there will be one or two shocks, we'll say.
There'll definitely be a few surprises.
Well, who do you see, without obviously in your personal opinion, who do you see returning? Because obviously we'll know a few by now, but some people might not, so I can't really announce that. But who do you see, in your personal opinion, returning?
Undertaker. I definitely see him making an appearance.
I would be hurt if they didn't, considering he's the only active... not active. He's the only member of the roster that actually featured on that first episode of Raw. So not having there would be a bit... It would be, in my opinion, it'd be a bit of a letdown, personally. But from what I've heard, he's in good shape, so it's very, very possible. But from the rumours I've heard, they're keeping it. The Undertaker, as usual, his return very close to the chest this time. They're not giving anything away, which would make it all the more of a shock if he does come back on Monday. But personally, being a long-time Undertaker fan, I'd love it. It would really, really help to make my night, to be fair. Who else do you think, possibly?
Possibly. I think we might see Billy Gunn there.
Yeah. That would... It'd be a surprise to me. But you've got to think, though, are they going out all out and getting people they're not in contact, or do you think they'll just give us the same old road agents they've got working? Because obviously they've got a lot of people on legend contracts. But then you've got people like Rikishi, who returned on Monday, who's clearly he's not on any kind of form of contract at WWE, and he just appeared from nowhere. He wasn't a road agent or anything like that. That was great. That was a great comeback. Personally, I would love to see Rikishi back, and I'm glad Usos got a little bit of a TV time with him as well, and that was good. But not to spoil anything for any, but I have it on good understanding that everyone that's come back as a returning legend will be there on Monday. So you've got Psycho Sid, Vader, Doink, etc., etc. That's obviously just a rumour. I have nothing confirmed because personally I'm avoiding all spoilers at this point. But yeah, it's a possibility, definitely.
Yeah, no. Rikishi was even a surprise to me, and I didn't see him coming back to work that match.
Well, we know how rare a surprise is to you, Scott. So that must have been something from WWE. Anyway, moving on to another question we've got here, again from Leo. We've got a couple of things to discuss. That he wants the rating of likelihood of these happening on the 1000th Raw. Here's one that I personally believe it's obviously a bit of a joke answer, but Vince announcing the return of WCW. What do we see that ever happening? Never mind on the 1000 for All.
Nah. No, I think WCW is well and truly dead.
But
I can't see it returning.
is there not even the slightest bit of possibility? Because obviously they're not going to bring back the main competitor and have it competing one-on-one, but they could have it like a sideshow, like ECW once was for them, when they were out back briefly. But I think now they're obviously focusing on things like NXT and Superstars. I've heard a lot of good things about NXT. I've still not personally managed to watch it since it's been, let's say, repackaged to a degree. I've heard a lot of good things. You watch NXT, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
So what would you say about that? Is that the way forward to WWE? With stuff like that as side programming to obviously Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-view?
Definitely. NXT has been done well.
Well, that's all we can say then. There's no need for a WCW return because they've got things covered currently, which is good. It's a nice change for WWE. They seem to be, I say seem, to be heading in a certain direction. Here's another one. What do we think the likelihood of, I presume, any members of the TNA roster appearing on Raw?
None.
You think with this current legal degree there's going to be absolutely no deals made on the sly? Much like the Ric Flair for Christian one that was made before this shit went down.
Yeah, no, I don't see this happening at all.
I can't rule it out, but I would instantly be very dismissive of it. But I can't rule it out. There's a possibility. Saying that, can you imagine if because there's been a lot of talk about Matt Morgan, can you imagine if they debuted him, or he appeared? Former TNA technicality, but it's still poaching one of theirs, isn't it? To an extent.
Yeah, he's probably the only one who I can think of, but yeah.
But it'd be sad knowing that there'd be no, for example, Ric Flair possibly because of problems he's got currently, or no Kurt Angle, because they were a big part of WWE and Raw, I believe, at one point. But like I said, it'd be great to see them, but yeah, it's just not. It's not something I'd immediately expect. But yeah, another topic, again, the likelihood of the Ultimate Warrior returning. What do we see on that point?
I can see this happening. Personally, I think he could be a huge surprise.
Well, I personally wouldn't expect it. I definitely wouldn't expect it. I would be impressed yet surprised, which is what I like from my what I would like from my WWE Raw 1000th episode. I would like a few mark out moments. I would like some unexpectedness. It'd keep me watching and keep me entertained. The problem I've got now though is I've really enjoyed these past few Raws with these returning legends, beat Heath Slater. I'm worried what's going to replace that segment that I'm going to enjoy after this 1000th. Because they're obviously not going to keep having legends return then, which is sad, but it's the way it's got to go. I want to know how they can improve what they've got then. What do you believe?
I actually believe that this all returning legend stuff is the beginning of a Heath Slater push. I honestly think that they're going to start working on him and improving him. He's got the basics there. He just needs to work on his mic skills and get the right push.
Well, if you remember, they planted the seeds of a celebrity feud with what happened at WrestleMania with Flow Rider. So that's possibly will get him a lot of press attention and a further push if they bring that back into prominence. What can you see happening with that with Heath Slater?
I can definitely see that again being another way of pushing him, having him go in against a celebrity. We've seen celebrity involvement in the past with WrestleMania, so it wouldn't surprise me, but it would be a good move.
Yeah, it would be definitely a good way of getting him into the limelight a little more. But I know he's basically been literally jobbing to the stars, but I've been impressed with Slater. I've really enjoyed this segment. I've got into the character of Heath Slater. I used to be like, oh, it's Heath Slater, I've no interest, but now, because the role he's played in this, there's a little bit of arrogance in his one-man band. I've really got to like Heath Slater. He's now one of my favourites currently on Raw, but we'll see where they go with that, because they could easily just drop him like a sack of spuds after this segment, but I hope they don't, personally. I think he's got a little bit of somewhere to go. But WWE are known for misjudging talent horrendously. They have made a few mistakes in the past. Back onto the ratings of likelihood. Go on, did you have something to say then? Sorry. Guess not. What do you think about the unification of the US and Intercontinental Championships? Do you think that's a possibility?
Obviously, you have to keep the possibility of that open, but I don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening either, but I know a lot of people are calling for something like this, and I just don't quite understand it. I would think they would need to have more titles because of such the diverse and huge rosters they currently have. Never mind combining two. But I don't like the whole Santino Marella being the US champ thing. It's just tarnishing the title. If you think of the great names that have held that in the past, then you've got, fair enough, he's alright, he's funny, he has his moments, but I don't like the way he's shoved in my face. In my opinion, comedy is good and all the well in a sports entertainment company, but you don't give him a belt like that. To have the USA Championship, but then at a major pay-per-view, I think No Way Out if I'm not mistaken, to have a tuxedo match with a manager, well, announcer, let's call him. It's just why? What's the point in that? I really hated that match and I hated that segment. It was terrible. But that's just my personal opinion on it, obviously. What did you think about that?
I agree with you. I reckon I don't reckon Santino should hold the US title any longer. I think it's time to give it to someone else.
Who do you think then should step up? Who should get the title?
That's funny because I wouldn't mind seeing someone like Heath Slater actually.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
The US title.
Do you think this is Slater's chance to get a belt? But if you remember, you don't want to get pushed too much too soon. Because, for example, Zack Ryder, off the back of his internet shows, got a huge push to win the US title. As soon as he won it, he lost a lot of fan base. And dropped it soon after. And, for example, another example would be Jack Swagger when he won the Money in Bank so early on, if I'm not mistaken. Because then he won the championship, and it was just too soon. You need to give these talents time and nurture them. That's how you make a true champion. If you take a look at, for example, I know it's Cena. Some of us may hate him, but he was nurtured over time, even from his debut when he had a very impressive outing with Kurt Angle. He went on to eventually at WrestleMania. First, he beat the Big Show for the USA title. Very credible with that, and eventually it took him time, but he moved on to the WWE Championship picture, and he's been there ever since, really.
As I said, I believe that what made him the credible WWE Championship threat was his feud with Jericho back in 2005, before Jericho left the first time.
Well, as you put that up the other day, I'd never heard of that. I never knew that Jericho was basically the one to put him over and get him on this impressive run that he's now been on. But you live and learn. Obviously, you're quite in the knowledge with this kind of thing. But it's good to see. But in our final so far from Liam, we have, what do we think of the likelihood of Vince McMahon retiring from the WWE on the 1000th episode?
That would be a shock factor, definitely. As much as I don't see it happening, you can never say definitely won't happen, because Triple H is getting more and more power backstage, so you've got to think maybe the passing of the torch is coming soon.
Well, it has to, really, doesn't it? Triple H can't keep going on burying everyone forever. But yeah, I'd heard that he basically took over Laurinaitis' role, from what I'd heard. But for some strange reason, they're keeping Laurinaitis on the payroll because they want to reintroduce him to TV at some point. But I don't know where they're going with that. I think he'd served his time as GM. It was up. He'd done what he did. He was the most hated heel in the company, basically, and he got what he deserved to the fan base. Obviously, no way out. If they bring him back in some form of something similar, it'll annoy me.
Yeah.
We have about 3 minutes left on this show so far. Obviously, I have to do it in half-an-hour segments due to the equipment I'm working with, but got a couple more questions. Tom asks, if we were WWE Creative, he has 3 people here, and how would we introduce, first of all, Dean Ambrose for his debut? Obviously, you know a lot about Dean Ambrose. How would you introduce him?
How would I introduce Dean Ambrose? Now, this is an interesting one, because originally I had the idea of having him start off with the feud with Foley that they had going earlier in the year.
Yeah.
From what I've seen of Ambrose in the Indies and stuff, the guy's good in the ring, and he's also got the mic skills to back it up. So he's definitely someone you can see coming in and building his way up the ranks.
Sadly, I don't know a lot about Dean Ambrose, as obviously I've not really watched much of NXT or any shows like that where he possibly came from, but where he could be introduced, it'd need to be, well, to be honest, I don't know how they'd work it, but Jericho could put him over, the King could put him over, but how would they work that angle is what I'm unsure. That's not a very good strong point from me. The next one is Wade Barrett. How would you reintroduce Wade Barrett to the equation?
How would I reintroduce him?
Yes.
I've been saying this for a while. I want to see him feud with Sheamus.
I like that idea, I really do. But the thing that interests me is Sheamus' face, and Barrett would obviously come back naturally being a heel because of his English, and he just naturally gets hate. But what I don't understand is why an Irish guy doesn't naturally get the hate. No offence to the Irish at all, love them to bits, but why are the English getting the hate and not Sheamus? Sheamus is very easily able to put on a face character.
I think when it comes to that, because Sheamus can add so many dimensions to things as a face. He can tell stories one moment, but if you cross him, he'll go out there and kick your ass. He's got no hesitation doing that, so he's definitely an ideal face.
They do love the rough ass kickers, do the WWE Universe. And finally, in the last minute we've got in this segment, how would you reintroduce Mark Henry?
Mark Henry, this is a tough one because I actually like the Hall of Fame stuff. It was bringing him out as the dominant monster that he was always meant to be.
I personally think they should have done that early in his career, though. I don't know why they waited that long.
It should have happened earlier in his career.
But originally, it was not really a joke, but he had a lot of comedy personas and gimmicks. Like, when he was originally like that whole Mae Young thing. But I think, he definitely should have been dominant early in the time. That's currently for this part of the episode. I don't know if we have any interest in carrying on, but that's all we've got time for. So thank you, Scott, and I'll speak to you later, guys.
You're listening to Spreaker Web Radio.
Hi guys, and I'm back, and with Scott, and I have a special surprise for you all, as Reese has now managed to be able to join us. So back to the original plan with 2 guests. So guys, obviously Reese, you sadly missed the first part, but we just basically discussed some of the questions we'd been asked. Like about Vicky Guerrero's character, etc., etc. But we've got a few more to go through this episode, if that's okay. Right, here we go. Firstly, I just want to give a mention to a fellow, obviously, let's say, networker of mine. 2 friends of mine do a nice little thing on YouTube called Rap. They recently did the first episode. Just want to mention Matt Towers and Giles Strutt there that have got a good thing going on. I've thoroughly enjoyed that first episode and can't wait for the next one. Anyway, I won't pester you. First question for you both. How did you get into wrestling and at what age?
Well, we watched it since I was 5, I guess. One day watching it in the morning with my mum and dad. So I've been a big fan of wrestling ever since, really.
What about you, Scott?
What was the question?
How did you get into wrestling and at what age?
I got into wrestling after I was randomly watching an event, and I think it was Chris Jericho versus someone back in 2004.
And you've been watching ever since?
Yep.
Well, I answered this last week, but it's a question that I like to ask to everyone that comes on, because it's quite usually brings up quite a nice little talk about it. Next question, what's your favourite wrestling moment ever? Reese?
I've got too many, to be honest.
Well, if you could just give us a couple.
When Evolution formed.
Yeah, that was
my favourite group.
Yeah, that was good. You got a couple. If you can give us a couple of little ones, if you've got loads.
Yeah, I've got tons. When Shawn Michaels put that pin on the head of Mr. McMahon and jumped off the top of the ladder.
Oh yeah, that was very enjoyable. What about you, Scotty?
For me, it's got to be Edge spearing Jeff Hardy when he was hanging off the ladders in that TLC match.
Oh, I've watched that many times. WrestleMania 17.
Yep.
I've watched that many times.
Another one's when Stone Cold stunned the whole McMahon family.
Oh, I've heard that. I think that was that mentioned last week, or have I dreamt that? Well, that is quite a popular one. I've heard that before. I'm with you, where I have quite a few. I've mentioned some of them last week, but talking about WrestleMania 17, when Stone Cold sided with Mr. McMahon to the official end of the Attitude Era. It was sad for the end of the Attitude Era, but it was just it was a moment that you never thought you'd see, and it happened. It was special, really, to be honest. Another question I've been asked: Do we see Raw lasting another 1,000 episodes? What do you think, Sky?
I definitely do see it lasting another 1,000 episodes. I think if they just keep doing things to make it fresh and innovative, they can definitely go another 1,000 episodes. Because just look at The Price is Right, which has gone 6,000 episodes.
Jesus.
I think Raw can do that.
Get Michael Cole saying, longest episodic running television show in history again and again and again. What about you then, Reese?
Well, over the past couple of weeks, it's improved a lot, really. I guess if it carries on the way it has been recently, then it can easily get 2,000. SmackDown has improved a lot recently as well, so hopefully that will get 1,000 in no time as well. That's what I'm hoping anyway.
Well, there you go, Scotty. Question for you: do you know how many episodes roughly SmackDown's on? Do we have an answer for that?
Like 100, isn't it?
I'd say 600 and something, but I couldn't tell you the exact number off the top of my head.
Yeah, so a while yet before it well, not a while, but it's a way off Raw by a couple of hundred episodes at least. But I'm not usually a watcher of SmackDown, but I must admit I did tune into it on Friday, and it was all right. I didn't mind it. The Peep Show segment was good in my opinion. What did you think of that?
Or Animal back as well.
Yeah, I didn't expect that because I don't watch SmackDown to begin with, but I thought that Heath Slater segment was just for Raw, so it was a nice little surprise. It's just it was a bit of a sad moment because it's just not the same without Hawk. But
Yeah, definitely.
it's still good to see Animal all the time.
I'm not going to ruin NXT for anyone, but they've brought a legend on that as well for him to face, haven't they?
Well, they've definitely got some views for NXT with that because, like I said, I'm not usually a watcher of it, but they seem to be bringing on it definitely so far the year of returns 2012, without doubt. I hope there's plenty more to come.
Step down NXT, and he's one of my favourite wrestlers. So.
Well, hopefully we've got a couple more tuning in for NXT to see who that may be. Next question we have: Do we see any future storylines? What we think in the lead up to SummerSlam? Say anything we can predict?
The Rock, CM Punk, and John Cena.
Do you see that being some form of triple threat?
Yeah, to form a triple threat at SummerSlam.
What do you think about that, Sky?
Well, apparently The Rock's got to go for overseas tapings for Fast 6, so I don't see it happening at SummerSlam. Maybe Survivor Series. SummerSlam, I'm hoping we get a Ziggler versus Jericho match, as that will be a fantastic match.
Yeah, I could see that happening because there's nearly a month off till SummerSlam, so they've got a couple of weeks to hype and promo that. But it'd be good to see if they do anything on the 1000th about that. With the time they'll have, I wonder if they can still include that bit of that Jericho Ziggler thing we saw on Monday.
It'll also be interesting to see how WWE use them 3 hours on Raw, see how different it can become.
Yeah, that's true. From what I've heard, I'm not sure though, it won't be like it is when they do the 3 hour specials. It'll be more, the first hour will be all promotional, and the 2 hours after will be the actual show like normal. It'll just give it another hour of promotional work. But if this fan active thing's true, me personally, and I think a lot of people I speak for here, think that that's quite rigged to an extent. Because I personally don't believe 34% of the WWE Universe wanted to see Layla defend the title at the 1000th episode of Raw. I just personally, I thought, well, why? You've got Christian, who's been a great, well, I say a great servant to the company, because he's jumped ship a couple of times, but he's a good talent and he deserves the belt, and he usually can put on a fantastic match. Or you've got Santino Marella, who obviously in the first episode you won't have heard, but me and Scott had a little rant over because we don't believe he should have the title. So I would have personally preferred to see him defend it, because I hope to God that he drops it. But apparently the universe has spoken and they want Christian to defend it.
Yeah.
So I see it being a little bit rigged.
Here's a question for you, Chris. Who would you want as a United States champion?
Who was that? Who would I want as United States champion?
Yeah.
Good question. But I think I've mentioned, I might have mentioned this before, but I think after Tyson Kidd's impressive showing in the Money in the Bank, I think he should start to get a push. Possibly get a title match, possibly shock the crowd by getting a role at win or something along the lines of. But someone like that, yeah. And I think in the last episode, Heath Slater was mentioned by Scotty, because he's obviously, I think we both think deserves a push, but I would personally prefer something like like I just mentioned with Tyson Kidd, because I think he's got potential. In just what I've received on Facebook from Tom, Jericho said on Tout that he's had a big announcement for the 1000th that would steal the show. What do we all think this announcement may be? Reese, what do you think?
No, Jericho, it could be anything, to be honest.
It literally could be anything.
That it's going to be something to do with Dolph Ziggler in the World Heavyweight Championship.
Now, are they going to do what they did with Mr. Kennedy and Edge? Are they going to have a match for the Money in the Bank briefcase, do you think? Is that a possibility with WWE? Could that happen again? Because if you remember, statistically, Mr. Kennedy is the only man to win the Money in the Bank and not win the title because he never got his shot, because he lost the briefcase to Edge. If you remember that.
Yeah, one off, to be honest. But it would be a good match. But I'd rather see Dolph Ziggler, cash it in successfully instead of actually failing it.
Yeah, a lot of people are behind Ziggler, but that was a possibility that came to mind when that was mentioned. Scotty, what do you think?
Just on the Mr. Kennedy thing, the only reason that match happened is because Kennedy got injured. It's because he was meant to cash in on The Undertaker, but because he got injured, they had to come up with Edge taking it. It definitely does suit Jericho's persona, though, to have him challenge Ziggler for the Money in the Bank briefcase. So I can see it happening.
Well, I personally didn't know that about Kennedy getting injured, so thank you for that. So, yeah, if that was just a one-off because of an injury, that leads away from that. But but apparently Jericho's now face, and that's not something a face would do. Or is it? Could it possibly he's taking it away from a heel? Would he cash it in cleanly? Would he not? Many questions to be answered. A couple of what people have posted on Facebook. Liam thinks that he could be the GM, and Giles thinks that he's going to perform live. They're possibilities, I suppose, but I hear he's possibly Fozzy performing live at SummerSlam. Has anyone heard that?
Nah, but I hope they're quite a good band to be.
What were you saying, Scotty? Sorry?
I've heard Metallica will be at SummerSlam. Well, I won't be surprised to have a Fozzy concert at the 1000th World, to be honest. And it would be a good thing to get more publicity for the band.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Well, Metallica are legends, so I can't fault that, but to have Fozzy though would be pretty good. As from Liam, apparently SmackDown was number 674, as he saw it in the crowd. So yeah, they've got a couple of hundred off Raw, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. 674 sounds right.
They keep it up though, they'll be doing exactly the same thing as what Raw will be doing in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, they've got to maintain and improve, keep with the times they can. It's funny to think, as I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure you both knew, SmackDown was meant to be originally an all diva or all women's show.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Can you imagine if we had 2 hours of the divas we currently have on offer?
Nah, it'd be good to look at, but nah.
Yeah, but that's what Babe Station's for, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't go with that in the end.
Tell you what to do though. SmackDown and Raw back, the real SmackDown and Raw.
Yeah.
So they're all on their own rosters, so they can do the WWE draft again, because that was always a quality night.
Yeah, I love the draft night. It's sad to see the last one that I saw was the Cena double trade.
Yeah, when I went to SmackDown, I was just there like, maybe this is a change of things, but then he got back to...
Then WWE trolled us.
They've been trolling us quite a lot recently.
Yeah. Here's another interesting suggestion from Tom. Does anyone reckon that Jericho might be retiring or resigning, as his main priority will be Fozzy? He has stated that in the past.
Well, there were a lot of rumours about saying that after WrestleMania he was going to leave anyway.
Yeah, I heard that. But I wouldn't understand why they set up a storyline with Dolph Ziggler to retire him on Monday. Or was that possibly basically his retiring because Dolph kept going on at him saying, you're too old, you passed it? Was that passing of the torch though?
Because that would actually work, that, if you come to think about what Ziggler was saying to them.
Obviously, he had to hit the code breaker to end on a high, possibly, to not make him look like a weak, because Jericho, from what I hear, every time he's come back, it's due to the love of the business. It's not because he has to, because his two dreams were to be successful in WWE and to be a lead singer of a band, and he's lucky for him, he's achieved both. But Fozzy's his priority. So, he does keep zoning in and out.
The only reason Fozzy's his priority is because he's achieved everything that he wants to achieve in the WWE, but he returns. He always returns because he loves the business. It is what he dreamt of being ever since he was a child.
Since he's come back since January, I've really loved to see him back. It's been great. I used to think, fair enough, he's been heel a lot of his career, but I used to think he was an absolute prick outside of the ring, like him as a person. And I've just, from learning more and more, I've discovered he's not. He's such a nice guy, apparently.
Yeah, I've seen a picture on Facebook of him, like a restaurant thing, and he's got a massive smile on his face with his fans and everything.
Oh, if that was the case, I would be very sad to see that happen, but I would understand, obviously, because like you've said, he's achieved everything. Not many people can say they were the undisputed champion either.
And beat The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night, remember?
Yeah. I remember that.
Remember his debut on Raw though.
Yeah.
When he come out and interrupted The Rock.
Not many people get to do that on a debut either.
Not him.
The only other one that comes to mind is possibly Goldberg.
But he did sort of batter The Rock, didn't he? So.
But yeah, true legend is Keith Irvine, aka Chris Jericho. It would be very sad, but I would understand. But the door's always open for him to come back. Another thing I want to mention while I'm on the air, just to anyone that is listening that might not have heard of it, I want you to try and, if you can, check out a blog by Tom Pipson. He does a great blog. He's done one on the golden generation of England and why he possibly didn't come to prominence, and he's done a few reviews and previews on WWE pay-per-view and Raw, etc. It's a good read, so check that out if you can. Let's get that out in the air while I've been asked. Next question we have been asked to discuss. Who are the 5 guys that deserve a push, except obviously Heath Slater, as that's already been discussed? Scotty, we'll start with you. Who do you believe is one person you would have get a push other than Heath Slater?
To be honest.
Go on, Scotty. Sorry, Reese.
That's right.
Are you there?
Yeah, it's for me, Kofi Kingston, definitely.
And why do you believe that?
Why? Because the guy's improved a lot in the ring recently. And he's been stuck in the tag division just watch his feud a couple of years back with Orton. It's one of the few feuds that that I've seen involving Orton that have been, well, in recent years that have been great. It was a great feud.
Yeah. What about you, Reese? What's one you believe deserves a push?
I mean, a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, but ever since JTG has come back onto Raw on the scene, he seems more, more mature. He seems more like he wants to get somewhere in the company. So, me is JTG at the moment.
I could see where you're coming from. It would be okay. I think there's more deserving people, but again, I think JTG possibly, yeah. But
if
you've got
JTG, then I'd say someone like Alex Riley.
yeah, he was kind of spoiled a little bit because he came to prominence in The Miz, had one match with The Miz after the breakup basically, and then that was it. Disappeared.
He doesn't really wrestle much anymore. He's a lot.
There's one I can agree with. Riley getting a push would be fantastic. The only reason the guy's not on the TV anymore is because he gets the blame for a botched gut-wrench power bomb by Jack Swagger.
I did not know that. Well, one I believe that people will clearly disagree with. I think Zack Ryder. He needs more of a push further than
Yeah,
what
he
it was.
needs the internet to stop backing him up.
Yeah, he does. Let's be honest, he's only there because of his thing, but I do hold my hands up and say I do like him.
And to be honest, if Punk loses the WWE Championship, which he will obviously, I want him to get a shot at the World Heavyweight again.
I'd like Punk to stay in the title picture of one belt, definitely. But that's me being, well, I'm currently wearing a CM Punk t-shirt, that just says it all. That's me being very biased towards him, because I love him. I think his gimmick's amazing, I think his in-ring is good, I think he's on the mic's fantastic. I definitely can't get enough of Punk, so enough about me chatting on. What about...
Punk should definitely stay in the title picture. Guy's great in the ring, fantastic. Guy's great in the ring, great on the mic. He definitely deserves a title remaining in the picture, even if he does drop the title in the end.
Yeah, I think so too. Have you got another one you believe deserves a push, Scotty? So far you have agreed with, you said Kofi and you've agreed with one of Reese's. Do you have a third?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I've got, this man, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes deserves to be up there. Fantastic old school heel. The guy's developed himself brilliantly.
Yeah, I agree with Cody Rhodes also. Definite. Have you got another one, Reese?
Yeah, I do. He's not really been into the business for quite a long time. Now, I know a few people are going to either agree with me or disagree with me, but Damien Sandow needs some sort of title shot at some point. You know,
Yeah.
he is so good at selling moves.
I'm glad you agree with me though, Reese, because I mentioned, obviously we saw the SmackDown Money in the Bank and we saw Ziggler being Ziggler, but I was very impressed with Sandow's move selling, because that was the first time I'd really got to see him in action.
He's not a small guy at the end of the day, is he?
No,
And
exactly.
He's actually a good seller, so.
What do you think about that one, Scotty?
Damien Sandow most definitely deserves a push. Guy's great in the ring. He's fantastic on the mic. I'm enjoying this gimmick he's doing.
Yeah, I love it. I think
I might not like the guy, but he definitely deserves something more than what he's getting.
he's one of those you love to hate, though, I believe. You obviously meant to hate the guy, but I just love his attitude. It's something we haven't got at the moment in WWE. Another one possibly, obviously it's very obvious and currently in action, but we have to talk about it. Dolph Ziggler's push. That's something that's been deserved and is coming. Or it looks like. Do you think he can finally topple the ever-ending push as Sheamus?
I hope he does. Because it's something that he's needed, and to be honest, if he does get the whatever championship, then it's good for the WWE because he's one of the best sellers I've ever seen. The only bad thing about Dolph Ziggler is that his finisher doesn't look like it would hurt someone. It doesn't seem like a finisher, it seems like a normal move, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's only my opinion.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Have we got any more to add to that?
I believe this is Dolph's push.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
believe this is what's going to get him in the main event. And he deserves it.
Yeah, he's earned it. That's definite. I think, but I do think he needs to get away from Vicky now. But that's a very popular opinion.
Vicky Guerrero, the only reason I want to see her in the WWE is because of her last name and because of her history. She's like keeping the Guerrero sort of thing going, if you know what I mean.
Well, we discussed a question you were asking. The first one was, do you think her character's gone stale? And we both agreed that no, her character hasn't. She's very good at what she does because she brings natural heat to anyone she's managing or the client of.
Yeah.
So she definitely has a place in WWE. But I think she's found it. She's not a GM. She's not anything else. She's a managerial position. Something I want to briefly touch upon while we have time is AW as a manager, or whatever you want to call it. I really think that's good, especially with a mic, and I just think that's a fantastic way where they're going with it.
It's actually working as well with AW. You know, he's good on the mic. He's actually surprisingly good on the mic, to be honest. And I don't know.
He's already established himself a catchphrase. Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
There's people who do it much better than me, but
I do agree with AW being a fantastic manager. I like the primetime players. I like their gimmick. I like them having AW, and I think soon we'll see them as tag champs.
I hope so, because then if they beat R-Truth and Kofi, then Kofi can get that push that you're on about.
yeah, that's very true. But I also like R-Truth, so I want him to be up there.
Yeah, well, then maybe you can get the US title. You never know.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy with that. We got questions coming in thick and fast, but time is running out on us. So quickly, we've got a question. What would you like to see in WWE 13?
Oh, so much more needs to be improved from WWE 12.
What did you see wrong with WWE 12?
I mean, the gameplay was good, but the amount of glitches, stuff like that. And I suppose the 619, if you wanted to be Rey Mysterio, the 619 was pretty complicated to do if you didn't really know much about it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever managed to do the 619 as of yet, but I'm not Rey Mysterio very often, to be fair.
Yeah.
What about you, Scotty? What do you think?
Simpler gameplay would definitely be something for me.
Well, I'm just the game's instantly sold to me because it's the Attitude Era return for a game. That instantly sells it.
But I'm just hoping that they're allowed to put people in like Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, because if they're not in it, then it's not really the same, is it? Because they were a feature of the Attitude Era.
Yeah. That's very true. We have another question, but sadly we're not going to have time to cover it as we're on to the last 15 seconds now. So I just want to thank everyone who's been listening, if anyone out there or anyone in the future. I want to thank my two guests for the night, which is Reese Holland and Scott Adams. Thanks for joining me on this. And we had a good time, guys. I'll catch you again later.